it's important to recognize that opportunities come through people. So you have to engage, you have to build partnerships, even whether they're with your clients or with other partners or whatever. But you always have to have people around you in order to lift you higher and get you to that place that you need to be. Yeah. But along the way, you're going to encounter some relationship challenges, some people who will try and use you, some people who disappoint you. And one of my favorite sayings is always be clear about your purpose or others will use you for theirs. So I would definitely, suggest that, it doesn't mean they're bad people. Sometimes they're just blind people. Sometimes they're just hurting people. Yeah. And so when those people let you down, as they will, don't personalize. It's not about you. It's just that they're hurting people or they're inexperienced people. Yeah. They just don't know. Maybe they just don't have that that kind of inner strength really that you have. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Jen. Now, in your experience then over the years, like working with so many different people, successful people, and your journey as well, would you point out to any more like specific characteristics or qualities that you would see in people who have made it and who have succeeded?
Yeah. This is actually something that I was talking to one of my mentees about yesterday. And in fact, I talked about this on my podcast as well last night on my live podcast. It's to do with self-talk, empowering self-talk. Yeah. So I've noticed this several times because, as I said, I know some very wealthy and successful people, and I know people who, they are very capable, but they're not necessarily achieving the same results. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that the people who are very successful, they have a way of talking to themselves, that it's language patterns that then come out in terms of their communications with other people. Now, some people will just pick that up and just say, well, that's just confidence. It might come across as confidence. Some people might say, well, it's arrogance. It depends on your perspective. But it's very empowering, self-empowering language. So I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and he said, oh, Jane, I'm still looking for warehouses off the North Circular. Have you got anything? I was like, well, not really. That's not really what I do. But anyway, it's like, okay, well, if you do find anything, yes, fine. Okay. And then he said, my brothers and I, we've just made such a good decision recently. We've invested in this business. It's a global recruitment business, and it was such a smart investment. I'm so happy that we did that. It's just, and that was the way that he was talking, and he was like, you might be interested to have a look at it. Okay, yeah, I'll have a look at it. That's fine. You might know somebody that might be interested. But the way that he was talking about it was the way that he talks to himself. I could tell, he's telling himself, I'm a smart guy. I make smart investments. I make smart decisions. I've just done something really smart. And all the time, this talk is going on in his head about, I'm an achiever, I'm that type of a person. And so if you have had people disempower you, which is a lot more common, if you haven't necessarily had let's just say entrepreneurial or wealthy mindset parenting, for example, then you have to develop that empowering self-talk for yourself and actually, use affirmations, actually find out what those limiting statements are that are holding you back and counteract them by actually creating some statements, for yourself that says something like, I always make smart decisions based on my intuition and experience. Or I don't know, whatever it is that counteracts anything that is going through your head that tells you that I can't do this because So I have really noticed that very, very strongly, that, as I said, other people will pick it up as confidence, but because I'm obviously quite a verbal person, I've got a degree in English, I'm very precise in terms of language, then I recognize those patterns, and it is to do with language.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite insightful, actually, to understand. So within that, what would you say is the power? I mean, you mentioned affirmations, but what would be the power of like visualization as well? Visualizing like your goal, even though you don't know how or when you're gonna get there, but is there some power in visualization?
Yeah, so they say if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. So it is a very powerful exercise, because if you don't really know where you're heading, or you just got like a fuzzy notion, then it will stay fuzzy, and it's if you don't know what your destination is, then it's a bit like that quote that I said about always be clear about your purpose. Your destination belongs to your purpose. So your purpose, if you like, the reason why, is your impetus, to actually get you out of bed and get you taking action and doing the things that you don't necessarily feel like doing, that delayed gratification. But equally, you've got to be very clear about the destination. So there was a very famous statement, and it's that the Kung Fu fighter, I'm just trying to remember his name, but
Bruce Lee or
Bruce Lee, that's right. So Bruce Lee created this famous mission statement that said who he was going to be in 5 years' time, and I don't have it in front of me, but you can look it up. And it was, a lot of people might have just laughed at him at that moment, and it's like, I'm going to be the most famous and well recognized Oriental fighter in the world. I'm going to have a fortune of $10 million, and all of it came true. So he just made this mission statement about himself. And then there was the actor Jim Carrey, who also famously wrote himself a check for, because in the days, when people still use checks, for, I can't remember, something like $10 million. There was a certain amount, and he post dated it to 5 years' time. So, look, I mean, that's really, obviously, I know. Your podcast is about business and wealth mindset. So, I mean, a wealthy mindset gets specific around financial goals. Just a general mindset is different. But, if you're into business and wealthy mindset, then I do believe in the power of setting yourself financial targets and goals as well. And then, interim goals and milestone goals and all of that. And yeah, just kind of think about, what are you going to do when you get to those goals, or what difference are you going to make to the world, your family, the world, yourself? What kind of a life and a legacy do you want to have? Because if you're somebody who's sitting on top of 10 million pounds, you can make a big difference to a lot of other people. And what is that difference going to look like?
Yeah. Wow. Perfect. Now, what would you say if you talk us more through the power and the impact of aligning yourself to the right tribe or network, and also mentorships? How important is that to launch people, to help people?
Yeah. So they say, again, I mean, I might be, repeating things that other people may have heard already. Always surround yourself by those that lift you higher. And I think a lot of people misinterpret that, and they think that it's just all about surrounding yourself with wealthy people, and it's not, because some wealthy people can be the stingiest, most unhappy people in the world. They can. There's plenty of wealthy people that are very miserable. Honestly, there are. And there also can be very uncharitable, very ungiving, They can be the people that pull up the drawbridge and just ignore everybody else and go off and live our rich lifestyle type people. So people are people, whether they have a lot of money or very little money. And when you're surrounding yourself with the right people, I think it's important to be around people who have the attitude of wanting to give value and to serve rather than just take.
Yeah.
And that is what I always look for. So I don't judge people on their wealth. Some of the people that I know and that I associate with are extremely wealthy and very successful, but they tend to be self-made entrepreneurs because they're the kind of people that I gravitate more towards. Some of the people that I am also friends with, they don't have much money at all and they are struggling. I make no distinction because I like to help people, and some people I know I can serve and I can help and I can make a difference to in a small way. But when it comes to your inner circle, you need to have a tribe that are going to take you somewhere. And that is, of course, where, masterminds and mentors, coaches, people like that make a big difference. And there's no two ways about it. They definitely do.
Yeah. And in that, just picking up from that, I met quite a lot of people who, say to me they've spent thousands and thousands of pounds either on courses or on mentorships, on all of this, but they are not finding, the right place to launch themselves, because there's a lot out there. There will be people who advertise themselves as mentors or courses and things.
Yeah.
In the intent of, maybe as a business making lots of money, but not serving specifically the interests of those they are mentoring. So what would you advise people in terms of what should they look out for, or how can they determine that this is the right mentor, or this is the right course, or this is the right thing for them to do, so that they don't end up just spending money here, there, and everywhere and not getting anywhere the results?
Yeah. And it really is a problem, and it's I've spent actually quite a lot of money myself learning some of the things that I learn now and I know now. Some of those investments were amazing and really so worth it, and one or two were just I may as well just have thrown the money in the bin, to be honest, for the value that it actually created. So again, just to go back to what we were saying earlier, that it really does depend on, a few different factors. So I think what I find quite helpful is to follow people over a period of time rather than just jump in because of the, you've just been seduced by some offer. Because I am a marketer and I know I'm a language person. I know how to hook people. And, it's easy for people who are really just looking to, as I said, to take rather than give.
Yeah.
If they're very slick salespeople, and, we've all seen that. There's a lot of slick salespeople around. I've seen some really quite shocking tactics, to be honest. I remember a few years ago, I was part of a property network and I went along to one of their big events, and I was kind of sitting at the back, and it doesn't happen quite so much these days, but it was almost a question of, we're going to lock the doors until, you get the credit card out. It was almost that. It was really, really kind of quite extreme. And I could see what actually happened there was that some of the more educated and perhaps slightly more sophisticated people in the room, they were like me. They were like, oh, you know what? There's no way I am going to buy into all of this. They were just holding back. Yeah. And then there were other people who were just, because they used a lot of techniques that were, they used a lot of NLP. They used a lot of techniques from the church, actually, just actually kind of like rousing people into almost this kind of like fever pitch of, excitement, really. And they got them up onto the stage. They got them to proclaim, their commitment to their amazing future. And then they marched them to the back of the room where they had the credit cards, and they stood over them. Actually, this guy stood up on a chair telling them about their amazing future and really almost like hypnotizing them over and over and over while these people were, giving their credit card details. And that is just horrible. It's what I call manipulation marketing.
Yeah. It is, isn't it? Playing on people's emotions.
Preying on them. And the people that they were preying on, I knew were the people who were also the most desperate because, and maybe the most vulnerable, because they weren't necessarily the most educated or sophisticated people in there, because, as I said, those were the ones that weren't falling for it. So I really, really hate that kind of thing when I see it. And there is a lot of it around, and now there's a lot of it around online as well. So I would say the best thing to do is just follow people when you get to listen to them, like we're having this conversation now, and you're getting an idea of the kind of person that I am. I'm obviously, you've invited me onto your show because you are a certain kind of person as well.
And I've been following you just like this.
Yeah. So we resonated through values. And so it's very important, I think, to really understand what somebody's values are and just not be taken in by the get rich quick. And particularly the Americans are very, very slick at that. They really are. So don't just buy into the, buy into the ads and, the private pictures of the private planes and the Ferrari and there's one guy, I think he's called Ty Lopez.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff, but he's kind of famous for that. Yeah. So he has this one, I think it's like a YouTube video, there's this famous humble brag where he's in his garage and he's got the flash sports car in the background. He's got his, selfie, stick up or whatever. And he says, look, I'm really just not into all of these. It's nice to have all these trappings of wealth or whatever, but you know what I'm really into? And then it kind of swivels and shows his library of books. And I'm really into learning. And he's like, okay, that's a humble brag.
Yeah.
And those are all just tactics, really, just designed to hook people.
Yeah.
And so... Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, picking up from that, they say each one of us has got their own unique brand in a way. There's no point, trying to be like somebody else because you're looking at them as role models and they're successful and you're trying to copy them. But in the process, you're losing yourself. So there is space for all of us, even those people who are bragging they've got flashy cars or whatever. They will find a space somewhere and they can make even millions or whatever and live a lifestyle like that.
Yeah.
So, So how can people be authentic, find their brand? And because I think most of the time for people, it's these limiting beliefs again. They'll feel, for what I am, if I use or follow my brand, I can't be as successful because there's no market for that. Or what can I do with that? What would you say to people like that?